Hi, welcome to our podcast. How are the children? We have something special today. We are not going to talk about the Bible so for those of you that, aren't that excited about it, woohoo. I am Pastor Brigette Weir and I'm on this podcast with
I'm Pastor Leta Behrens in Fort Collins, Colorado. We're very excited to have childcare advocates with us today and to do something a little different on the podcast today.
Yeah, so if you are a first-time listener with us on How Are the Children, our name comes from, and actually how we envision this podcast, from the phrase that the Maasai people in Africa and Uganda and Kenya and Tanzania use to greet one another. In their language, when they greet one another, they ask, "How are the children?" Because if the children are well, then the entire village is well. So we want to look at the scriptures from life, society, our community, from the children up. Because when the children are well, all of us are benefiting. So that is what we are doing today. And so we are here specifically to talk about childcare because on May 11th is a National Day Without Childcare. You might be able to see that from some of the backgrounds of our professionals and advocates here today. So we're going to start with an introduction of our guest panel today before we dive in to the meat of our conversation. And so I'm going to invite Stacey Carpenter. Would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do and where you're from?
Hi, my name is Stacey Carpenter. I'm a licensed home-based child care provider out of Greeley, Colorado. I'm also the president of the Colorado Association of Family Childcare. We're a nonprofit that advocates for home-based child care providers in Colorado.
Thank you. And then Carrie Kennedy.
Hi, my name is Carrie, and I am a licensed family child care home provider in Arvada, Colorado. I've been licensed for over 26 years, but I've been in the industry for well over 27. I also work with Stacy on the Colorado Association of Family Child Care. I'm the public relations coordinator, but I'm also the president of Jefferson County Child Care Association, which is one of the local affiliates of CAFCC.
Thank you. And Tiffany Chacon, would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. My name's Tiffany Chacon. I'm down in Durango, Colorado. We've got a lot of Colorado folks on here, which is lovely because Colorado is doing some amazing things I know we're going to talk about. But I'm a childcare and family champion. I've been a director, a family friend neighbor provider, and am now working in systems and policy space for childcare.
Yeah, thanks for being with us, and I apologize for mispronouncing your last name. Um, and so I actually knew that, and for some reason I blurred the C because my French kicked in. And then also with us, we have Sarah Stone.
Hello, I am Sarah Stone, and I have been in the early childhood space for over 20 years. Um, Most recently, I've been running a nonprofit early childhood center in Utah. Um, and I also am the director of UAYC's Care for Kids, so working on policy and advocacy work in Utah.
Thank you. And also with us today on the podcast, we have Michelle Lasley.
Hey everybody, my name is Michelle Lasley. I live in Portland, Oregon, and am a change maker organizer for community change and the Childcare Changemakers program that has brought you a day without childcare 5 years running, which we'll talk about more later. I'm also a mom of a 19-year-old, which is wild. And for a minute, I found myself doing after school care, so friend, family, neighbor. So it all intersects.
It does. Thank you.
It does. Thank you all.
And so, to kind of get our conversation started, I thought we would begin with our providers in the room. So, Stacy, Carrie, Tiffany, Sarah, you recently have been a provider. I want to hear from you what is it like to be a childcare provider in this current environment that we're in, economically and socially, some of those conversations you're having with your colleagues, as well as maybe how it's changed. Carrie, you mentioned you are closing up on 30 years of being a childcare professional. Things have changed, and I'd love to hear that perspective and then, yeah, let's start with that. How's it going and how has it changed? And then we'll ask a
Um,
couple other questions.
yeah, I think we've seen a lot of changes. I hate saying this, but I think childcare, our industry, has become a lot more stressful
Mm,
over the past 20 some years. Definitely more regulations now than when I first started. There are different social aspects. Social media is now playing a huge part in what we do. It's weird to say that,
yeah.
but parenting styles have really changed over the years, and
Mm,
how children are being raised has changed. And I blame a lot of that on social media. We talk about how our teenagers and children have those social pressures, but our parents do too. They see a lot of things and they feel they need to do certain things, look a certain way, behave a certain way. And those put a lot of pressures on our family,
yeah.
and it affects our children. I see our children being under more stress than they used to be. I still love my job, but I definitely work harder at my
Mm,
job than I did when I first started 26 years ago. I put in a lot more hours. I think about a lot more things than I did when I first started. It used to be just about the kids and the family. And it seems like it's about so much more than that
mm.
now.
Yeah, we could do a whole other podcast on social media and parenting and family
Mhm.
habits. Yeah. Stacey, I'd like to hear from you. How have things changed and what is it like currently for you as a provider?
Oh man. So I'm also a veteran. I have been 22 years in the field, so I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of changes. I think I think for me, started to see the changes during COVID.
Mm,
Um, that's when I guess we were elevated a little bit. We saw some power. We started we got the attention that some of us were craving. We were no longer just babysitters, we're childcare providers, we're daycare providers. We got elevated to what's the word I'm looking for?
essential worker.
Yes, we are
Yeah,
Yeah,
essential
you were
workers.
essential.
essential workers. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is when I realized that childcare actually touches every single industry.
Yep.
We're just not a family issue anymore. We're an economic issue. I think that's where I started to notice some of the changes. I definitely think we are more regulated now than we ever have been.
Hmm.
Um, Kids have changed, parenting has changed. It's different now than it was 20 years ago. It's a weird space to be in right now.
Hmm. Yeah, and Tiffany, what have you noticed in your part of Colorado, which is a little different than Carrie and Stacey?
Yeah. The big thing that keeps on coming in for me is actually on the opposite side
Okay.
of the licensing and the regulations. I'm going to talk about all of the care that's happening that is unlicensed care. In
Yeah.
Colorado, that's legal. You're able to watch for children with certain stipulations in your own home without a license. And what I see is that care is happening all over the place. We
Mm,
often hear that there's a child care desert, especially here in Colorado. It's one of those buzzwords that we throw up.
yep.
We don't have child care deserts. We have caregivers who are not supported, who are not being paid, who are not being recognized for the care that they're giving. A
Yep.
child is always receiving some kind of care. And I mean, here in where I'm at right now, I've been working with our superintendents for our school districts. And they
Nice.
say how many elementary and middle school kids are missing school because they're providing the child care for a younger sibling is ridiculous.
Hmm.
And they are family, friend, neighbor providers, right? They are caregivers, even if they are only 9 years old.
Mm,
So that's one thing that I see is that we are in Colorado recognizing this unlicensed care, these caregivers that are doing the work all the time, and we're starting to lift them up. We've got some amazing policies that are coming into Colorado. For instance, the Child and Adult Food Program through
yep.
USDA
Yep.
will be coming to our family, friend, neighbor providers this fall with
That's a
a
huge win.
really, yeah, it's a huge win. And it
Yeah.
was a system we had to
Yeah.
figure out how do you make it work?
Yeah.
Um, how do you do the background checks? How do you get the payment? How do you recognize that someone is providing care for someone who's not their child. I mean, there were a lot of pieces that we had to do, but it's happening. We're seeing things shifting. In Colorado, we're seeing funding that is coming from local districts to go ahead and support providers, families, infrastructure, because it is so hard for providers to actually operate and stay in this with the increased regulations, with the lack of income from parents to be able to pay,
Yeah.
and with the fact that we usually in most of our centers need teachers and we are consistently hiring because the people that are staying in childcare are doing it from their heart.
Yeah.
They're not doing it for the income. A lot of times they are sacrificing so they can stay in this role.
Yeah, Tiffany, you raise a lot of the complexity that's happening in childcare around regulation, the friend family networks, and how all of that fits together for families for high quality, affordable childcare. Yeah, so we'll be able to touch on that a little bit later as well in our podcast. I want to let Sarah Stone in here, our Utah provider representative. So, Sarah, what is it like here in Utah to be a provider, and how have things changed over your years of experience?
Similar to what some of the other providers have mentioned, but I've seen a really big shift in the last 5 years in because of inflation, in that uh, providers, we can't really keep up with the wages that we need to pay
Yeah.
our staff and that they deserve. I mean, it's never been a highly paid field. I think many of us went into it understanding that. And, but it's gotten extremely difficult for people to actually work in this field and put food on the table, because the providers can't keep up with what the rate that the staff need to be paid. So we lose a lot of really great care providers because of that, which is so unfortunate, because they, have the heart and the skill and they want to be there, but they can go work in fast food and make a lot more money.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what fields you're losing staff to here in Utah, what industries. So fast food is one
It's
where,
kind of all over the board, I
okay.
think. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember as a provider, if I could get a quarter more at another childcare center, I would go do that. And that was a million years ago in a galaxy far, far away. So thank you all for kind of giving us a little bit of lay of the land. I want to give you, before we continue with Michelle and the history of Day Without Childcare and some national things happening, I want to kind of lay that groundwork by hearing from each of you in a sentence or two. What is an anxiety or a fear you have about the future of your profession, and what's a hope you might have for your profession? I'll give you a minute to think about that, and then am just going to call on somebody. And Sarah, I might start with you because you and I have had those conversations before. So, what's a fear and
Absolutely.
what's a hope you have?
Here's a fear that I have. I I feel a little bit like many of us, I feel like a canary in the coal mine
Mm,
for the decision makers in our states, for our legislators that are making the decisions about where funding is going to go.
mm,
And in Utah, they keep saying, oh, you don't need the funding. You don't need the funding. It can go somewhere else, or we don't have it. And I feel like the canary saying, I'm in the coal mine, and we're not going to survive.
mm,
We won't be here in 5 years.
mm.
And then what will you do without a childcare infrastructure to support our entire economy and to make sure our children are being taken care of? So the fear I have is that they won't listen to us as canaries, that the coal mine will crumble and that we won't exist anymore. And I don't even want to take it from there. Um, a hope that I have is seeing some of the changes that are happening in other states around the country. There have been some really important wins. We see in New York with the new mayor and how he's making childcare a priority, and we've seen changes in New Mexico and Colorado, And so that gives me a lot of hope that we can use these blueprints in Utah and some of the other states.
Thank you. Yeah, me too. Tiffany.
Yeah, this is a great question. And I think my hope and my fear are the same thing.
Mm,
When I think about it, I think my fear is that we'll get to the end where we think somebody will take care of it. Somebody will figure it out. And then nobody does it, right? Like when someone says somebody will call in about that fire and nobody does it. That's what I fear. Um, but I also hope that somebody will step in and that everybody will step in and they'll start saying, how are the children? Let's take care of this. What are we doing? So I think it could be both. Either nobody's paying attention or everybody needs to get on board.
lovely. Stacey, what's your fear and what's your hope for your industry?
So I guess my fear comes from sitting in a licensed chair for the last 22 years. Colorado has made it extremely easy to be unlicensed. They've made it affordable to be unlicensed. My fear is our licensed programs are being pushed out, and they're being pushed out to support those who are unlicensed. If we lose the licensed providers, we lose a regulated section of childcare.
Yeah.
We lose childcare for families that want licensed care. And then they have to rely on the unregulated sector of childcare. That's my fear. It's scary to sit in the seat. It's scary to see a lot of what supports us as licensed providers being shared with others who are not licensed. It's scary. It's so easy in Colorado just to drop your license and do exactly what you're doing in an unlicensed sector. It's hard to put in this work and not feel supported by our legislative body. It's hard. It's hard to tell all my licensed members of our association that we have to be careful how we walk, how we talk, how we present ourselves, because sometimes our voices are stifled, are pushed away, are closeted because we have a license behind it. It's hard. It's hard. It would be so easy for me tomorrow to wake up and just drop my license. So much easier. No regulations, no guidelines, no nothing. But I do this because this is what I was designed to do in so many ways. I don't know. My hope is somebody in the legislative body finally starts listening to licensed providers and start hearing our fears and actually listen to us, like hear us, like just listen.
Yes, that's what we hope. That part of what we're going to be doing on May 11th will help with. Thank you for that. Carrie, what about you? What's a fear and a hope for this profession?
I would say, Stacey and I work very closely together with that licensed care. And part of me, I am scared for our small community too. I started off as an FFN provider, caring for a neighbor's child. And then when moving to Colorado, I cared for my son and my two nieces. And then I moved to what I consider the license exempt model because I started caring for children that I didn't know. I've been in it so long ago. I put an ad in the paper to advertise my business. So
That's a long time ago.
it was a long time ago. Nobody does that anymore.
Yeah.
So then I considered myself more license exempt, no longer FFN, because I brought in outside individuals. And then I became licensed. Colorado has 5 different family child care license types. And it really helps us tailor our business to meet the needs of our community, the needs of our own business. And I've held 3 out of 5 of those licenses over the years. And there is fear for me
Yeah.
of what's going to happen. Stacey and I got some numbers, and I just want to share this with you because it's crazy. Between 2016 and 2025, Colorado went from 2,294 licensed home-based providers down to 1,344. That is
Wow.
41% drop in
Wow.
our licensed home-based programs. And I
Wow.
think Stacey and I really know the value of home-based care. Um, we do support FFNs that care for those friends and family members because that is so important. And we realize in a lot of places there's not licensed care. We would love to see more licensed care because that is what we support and who we are. Um, the legislators, they have great intentions.
Mm.
We've made some positive changes, but I think the big picture wasn't seen. And we're trying to help the children, we're trying to help the families, but we're only thinking one step ahead instead of several steps ahead. And I think it's really important that we involve everyone in that conversation. We need to bring everyone in, and make sure we're truly listening to everyone on the fears, the hopes, the needs. And so my hope is that we do that because I think Stacey and I have seen a change in that where they are starting to reach out to home-based providers, licensed centers, and talking to us directly. Those of us doing the work, they're starting to talk to us more. Now we just need to get them to really listen to what we
Yep.
have to say.
And just to clarify for some listeners who may not know, FFN is Family and Friends Network, of how you find childcare. So just a little insider baseball there with childcare. And yeah, so we have these hopes and these fears. So Michelle, yeah, friend, family, neighbor. Yep. Um, so Michelle, you've heard these providers that are in the trenches and their fears, their hopes, the things they've seen change. I'm getting a list of multiple podcasts we could do around licensed and unlicensed care, social media, the family, friend, neighbor networks. We have a whole series right here, but I want to turn to you because and kind of help us focus a little bit of one thing that we can kind of dig into that's tangible, that allows us to place all of these big picture issues and challenges and hopes and dreams for childcare into a little bit of a container. So can you help us do that, Michelle?
I'll do my best. So as an organizer, right, we organize to build the people power so that when someone says, who's going to do it, we recognize and take the responsibility that it's us.
Yep.
We are going to be the ones who are going to do the thing. There's a saying in organizing work that power concedes nothing without a demand. And our demand is that we have a childcare system that fits every family's needs, no matter where they live, no matter what they look like, that's affordable and accessible, that's heavily reliant on parent choice, and that all providers have thriving wages. And when I say thriving wages, I mean, you know, more than what did you say, Sarah? Not a highly paid field, so fine, but I also want you to have retirement and vacation and access to healthcare. And I've um, spoken with too many providers who don't take like even bathroom breaks because of the way things work. Or in some states, there's rules about how many times a provider needs to be, like the percentage that they need to be in their home and their home-based provider. So much so that one provider had to stay in her space while her partner was undergoing a major health crisis. And this, like, so how are the children? How are the caregivers of the children too,
Yes.
right? It's all
Yes.
so integrated. So what do we do about it? Well, this year is our fifth National Day Without Childcare, where we are asking everybody who cares about the children and the caregivers of the children to take a stand and say, we support you. We support you, and we are going to come with you and strike with you so that we're making that stand and making that demand for affordability and accessibility for all families, thriving wages for all providers. And we know that care work has been made invisible because of the racist, sexist world that we're a part of. And
Yes.
so that everything needs to be grounded in racial and gender justice. So every policy that comes forth has to be able to see all of the people that are doing the work, all of the women doing the work, especially the Black and brown women who are doing the work, and the people from other countries, and honoring that and their role in it. So how did Day Without Childcare even start, right? Like, why would we even do a thing? There's actually, and we can link it in your description. Um,
Yeah.
Humboldt County had an idea for a day without childcare in 2012, but it turned into this cute, campy like video. Highly recommend viewing it. But how our day without childcare started was on the heels of Build Back Better. So
Mm.
we had begun to build this amazing movement of people in childcare change makers. And if you remember, like you all named, right? So COVID said, childcare is infrastructure. Y'all are essential workers. You're really important. And we had this moment where there was actually some transformational funding in Congress,
Hmm.
and Congress stalled. And they did nothing with it. And it went back and forth, and the numbers got reduced. And I don't remember all of the pivoting and ping-ponging, but it was stalled and it didn't go where it wanted to go. And our provider said, in our network, that isn't going to work. We need to stop this. What would happen if we all stopped together and really showed how this infrastructure is so essential and nothing moves without us? What would happen? And we've been growing ever since. More and more people, more news media, more states getting on the maps, more. We actually have more than 80 events on the map right now. And if you go to https://daywithoutchildcare.org, you will be able to get a history of the event and the events that are public right now to be able to see where you can chime in. So my ask of you would be to join in our Utah and Colorado friends and what they're doing. There's different social media campaigns, there's different events that you can go to. Show these providers that you value their work and how instrumental they are in our communities, and show these parents that we understand it's really hard to let your baby go to somebody who's going to be an extension of your love. But the expense for parents is also really hard, right? And like,
Yeah.
especially when a lot of parents are younger, and so they may be starting out in their careers and not making that much money. It's a very expensive field, and to operate, and then to not get the wages to match is just really hard. What did I miss? Like, what else would you like to know about?
I think that's a really good segue to what is going to happen on Monday, May 11th, correct? Did I get that date right? And to note that we will put links and everything in the program notes on the YouTube channel and on our Instagram. So never fear, dear listeners, it will all be there. But yeah, what's happening in Colorado? Carrie, Tiffany, or Stacey chime in, or Leta, whatever. You have a preschool at your church, and I don't know if you're participating, if in any way, but there's lots of on ramps, as Michelle just talked about. So, what's happening in Colorado?
So the Colorado Association of Family Childcare, CAFCC, we're doing our second year of an online social media awareness campaign.
Ah,
And we have members who have talked over the years of say, let's strike, let's strike. And we got this. And, I think the motivation and idea is really there. But one thing that is so amazing about home-based childcare is that we have a relationship, a very close, supportive relationship with our families and our children. So I think a lot of us feel hard that that's a hard thing for us to do. We see the power in it, and I think it would make an amazing statement, but we also know that would leave our families stranded. And we have a hard time doing it. So in Colorado, the last 2 years, we've decided to do an awareness campaign. And this year, our focus is a day with childcare. And we are gathering quotes and stories from families, and we want to elevate why childcare is so important to our families. And as Stacey said, this is not just a family thing. This is a economic thing. This is a foundational, structural thing, educational thing. childcare is so important. So we are just really hoping to include everyone, invite everyone to share our messaging. We have graphics, we have letters. So that's what we're doing here in Colorado.
Yeah, I'll have to I'll look at those resources. I have to admit, I didn't know about a day without childcare until last week. So um so our preschool hasn't participated at this point, but we do have a similar, obviously we're licensed care, but we have similar struggles, even being slightly bigger than home-based care of staffing, of wanting to pay well, and also wanting to be able to provide the quality care within the budget that we have. Um, we've been fortunate to be part of the UPK funding through the state, and we've been able to access that, which has made a huge difference.
Can you say a
Um,
bit what UPK funding is for folks that may not know?
it's universal preschool funding through the state, and you so I didn't have to do all the paperwork, but you file to receive, it's for 4-year-olds. The initiative is for all 4-year-olds to have preschool. So when they're 4, um, they can either families register through the Colorado site, and then that links them up with the preschool of their choice. I think there's also an element if you don't know what your choices are, they will help match you. Um, so like we educate our families on how to, they have to put in that they want that funding, and then our facility has to be listed as qualified. So we had to make some adjustments. There's adjustments with religious education in state, and it's number of minutes. There's a limit to how much time and can be dedicated to that. And so, yeah, that's been really important for our families. We tend to serve those who are lower income, probably choosing to have an at least part-time stay-at-home parent because of the cost of childcare, and really trying to balance that. A few of our families are housing insecure, so we try to bring in those other resources to support them as well. But yeah, I can identify with the kind of feeling out on your own, and I'm glad to know about these advocacy efforts and how we can help plug into them.
Yeah, so important to not feel alone, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's so exciting to hear what Colorado's doing around the universal preschool for 4-year-olds. Tiffany, I see you're walking, but do you have a minute to share with us what's going on in your community on Monday, or perhaps a day around it?
Yeah, a lot's going on. Um, a lot is going on. So down here in our county, I just want to state we have one of the biggest counties in the state. We have
Oh,
counties that are bigger than some of the states in the United States, and we only
wow.
have two home licensed providers. We have a few large centers. We do also have a ton of this family friend neighbor care, but we only have enough childcare for one in every 5 children 0 to 3 to actually have a spot in licensed care.
Hmm.
We did a bunch of work when all of this hit in 2020, and we realized childcare is essential. And we started building this up in our county. So, what we're doing is really more of a focused county support.
Okay.
We have some funding that has been allocated to our county. We have some strategic plans to really help support and fund all of the different types of care in our county, but we need it to be implemented. We need it to work. We need everybody to keep on talking about it and not let this government structure hide the money and put it to somewhere else, or to not focus on what we actually need help on. Um, So we are going to be blasting that message loud and clear. 1 in 5 in our county have the care that they need. We have funds. Our county population is decreasing. If we want to continue to have what we have to support childcare. So we will be doing big poster signs with that specific graphic. We'll also be doing some social media work, collecting stories. We've got some parents who are going to get together and do a podcast. Awesome. Love it. And yeah, joining the social media platform. I think the big thing that I've heard everybody here say, and thank you so much, Reverend Leta, for sharing this. She didn't know. People don't know. We have to talk about it. If you're not talking about it, nothing's going to change. So even if you're listening and you're like, I don't have this toolkit, I don't have the signs, I don't know what to do. If you go to the grocery store, talk to the person next to you about their childcare struggles or why childcare is important. I think there's a way for everybody to be involved on the 11th and every day.
Yeah. And again, we'll put some links and ways to connect in the show notes. So Tiffany, send me any links you have and we'll advertise that for you. Sarah, what's going on in Utah?
I'm so excited about Utah. We have been participating for a few years. Brigette, sorry, kicked us off a few years ago. And so I get to take the reins. We're doubling the amount of events we're having in Utah this year to 6 events across the state from north to south. And they're all going to look a little different because it's important when you're bringing people out for a cause, it's important that you are matching what the community, the style of the community, the needs and interests of the community. So like in Salt Lake City, where we have our state capitol, we're doing more of a rally type march situation, getting our elected officials to come talk to us and business leaders. And then in other parts of the state, it's more of a celebration and awareness of childcare is important. Our childcare providers work so hard. They need our support. Let's celebrate them. Let's bring them together and raise our voices. At all of our events, we're making sure that we have opportunities for them to write to their legislators, find out who their legislators are if they don't know, write to their legislators and tell their stories. So that we can create that power, as I'm learning from Michelle, we can create the power from the people. And, we have a couple of good things going on in Utah where our state is starting to understand that this childcare is a really big issue for their constituents. In Salt Lake County, there are currently and soon to be not 4 county subsidized childcare centers. And the county council was getting together to do their budgets, and they realized they were losing money on these 4 childcare centers and decided to shut them down. That was going to displace, I think, about 170 families, working families, and there was quite a big grassroots effort to speak up on behalf of these families and children and childcare workers that were also going to lose their jobs. And we got a lot of coverage around that, made a lot of movement, and we didn't save them permanently, but we saved them for an extra 5 months.
Yep.
And into the summer actually. So it will be, I think, an extra 9 months total.
Good, because I had heard you were closing in May, so that's good to hear.
Yes, there are some summer programs happening through the summer to kind of taper this off. And so that's made a lot of waves, and because it made a lot of parents angry, which is, I think, a good place to have some momentum. And the county council saying, well, we're losing money on this. I mean, we had to do some education about how much it costs to actually invest in children and to take care of our children in our community. And so I do feel like we've seen some movement on the state level because of what has happened with their childcare centers, where they're more willing to have some conversations about what it takes and what kind of investment we need to happen.
Yeah, I had a family in my congregation that was affected by one of those childcare, and the mom had to quit her job because they live in a childcare desert and they can't find anything they can afford. So she quit her job and is now staying home, which leaves her family in a more precarious economic space. So yeah, so there's lots of ways to be involved, and as you just heard, lots of on ramps, right? Social media, telling your story, getting involved at city council levels, writing your elected leaders, talking to folks in the grocery store, asking them, yeah, ending our day with a virtual rally. Michelle, anything else you want to add that might be happening nationwide that you would want to invite folks to if they're like, I don't even know where to start? What's an easy way?
One, you can follow us on Instagram at Community Change or Com Change Act. And so then you can get an updated, to see what's happening in Nevada to Nebraska to Colorado to Utah to New York and everything outside of and in between. And then we're going to end the day at 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 8 o'clock Eastern, with a virtual rally it'll be webinar style, but we're going to bring folks on like, to talk about the events of the day. We'll have as many pictures as we can get together, have collected through the day, so you can get a snapshot of that and be on a webinar with 500 or more people from across the nation to continue that demand and celebrate the solidarity that we have together, and knowing that we are not alone and that there are many of us, and the more of us that come together, we will get the childcare system that all of our providers and families deserve.
Excellent. Yeah, I encourage you to do that, and we'll have some ways for you all to connect on our pages at How Are the Children. Um, I'm going to invite all of you in here in a minute to wrap up with, at the end of our podcast, we usually end with having a response to how are the children based on the conversation we've had. So I'll give you all a minute to think of that. And before we do that, though, is there anyone else that has a closing thought or something that didn't get said that you really want to make sure is said here as part of this conversation?
I would
I
like to
wanted
continue. Oh, I'm sorry, Tiffany. I was going to say, I would like to continue to say, share your stories because they
Yes.
matter. No matter what your story is, it matters.
I'm going to second Carrie in what she said. There were a lot of things that were shared today, and we all have to talk. We all have to add that input because if we're making solutions that don't include some of our stakeholders, some of the people that are affected, we're going to get consequences that we don't want. So it is really important that everybody is included. This includes making sure that language justice is a piece of that conversation because we're missing a huge portion of the population when we only provide it in English. So that's my piece. Talk to everybody, every
Great.
level, every provider, every type of license, because everybody has something to say. And talk to people who aren't in childcare because it's affecting them too. So thank you. Love this. Love the conversation. Keep talking.
Yeah. Anyone else before we ask you to respond to how are the children?
Yeah, I would like to just reinforce that children are not a commodity.
Mm,
We are here to take care of them, to protect them, and to lift them up. And they should not ever be a bargaining piece. And they need more protectors right now.
mm. And with that, who would like to offer their response to how are the children? I'm going to ask Pastor Leta to go first because
I would say, I was about ready to. Right now, I would say um, that they are fortunate to have such wonderful people out there advocating for them and being a voice where they don't have a voice for themselves. So thank you very much.
Michelle.
Um, I struggle with the tension of one, children are resilient, and I look forward to co-creating a world with people like all of you where they can lean more into their creativity and fun and different ways of seeing the world without the stress that our social contract puts on them. Um, yeah, I think that's what I got for today.
Okay. Sarah.
I do think that there will always be people like us that are caring for the children. And in that sense, we're going to be okay. Um, but we need more of us on board.
Thank you. Stacey?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know if there's really anything more I can add. Um, I do agree with Sarah. We need more of us. We need more advocates out there, just not advocating for childcare, but for the children. We know that birth to the age of 3 is the most important time in a child's development. Their brains are almost fully developed by the time they hit kindergarten. So all the foundational learning happens while they're with childcare providers. Um, we need to recognize that. We need to recognize that on a national level, not just state or local. Those are easy peasy sometimes, but we need people to understand that full scope in the White House to finally understand, childcare is where it's at. Everybody, every adult has some connection to childcare, and we need to do a better job supporting childcare as an industry.
Thank you. Carrie, how are the children?
That's a tricky question. And I started to get emotional thinking about it because I think it depends on where the children are.
Mm,
Um, I mean, I've dedicated my life to kids. I think I knew when I was young, grew up in a large extended family. Children have always been an important part of my life. Children are amazing. They are amazing. They are brilliant. They are capable of so much. Um, but it depends on where they are and what chances they are being given, what they're being provided. And as Stacey said, I think we need to stop dismissing how important childhood is. Childhood is the foundation. And we're not just talking about the foundation of a single individual, we're talking about the foundation of our world, not even just our state, our county, our country, our world. And when we put the children first, as you said with that saying, how are the children? That shows a lot about your society. When you put the children first, it shows what you care about. And you care about the future. You care about sustainability. And I think sometimes also, how are the children? Well, it depends. How are their grown-ups?
mm.
How is their community doing? And all of that affects children.
Thank you. Well said. Tiffany, how are the children?
Yeah, it's like Carrie and I are on the same wavelength. That's exactly what I was thinking is it's not how are the children, how are the caregivers?
Mm,
Because if the caregivers aren't supported, if the caregivers aren't able to caregive for the children, whether it's an educator, a teacher, a parent, if they're not good, if they don't know how to do it, if they don't have the supports, the way we know what the answer is going to be for how are the children, not great. They're
hmm
not having the care that they need. And I think, yes, we need to focus on the children and we need to focus on the caregivers because this small group right here is getting smaller. They're
Yeah.
burning out. Our caregivers are burning out. Our parents are burning out. And so I want to keep on figuring out how we can support our caregivers to do the job that they were created to do.
Thank you. So I'll just end. How are the children? For me, the children, if they are with folks like you, caring adults like you, our children are in good hands. And I think that is my hope. is that our children and our society and our caregivers are in good hands going forward. So thank you all for joining us today to talk about this really important issue in the lives of our whole entire communities. Again, this is not a silo situation, which I think we have highlighted here today. So thank you all for your time. Thank you all for listening along with us. And if you have comments or questions, you can drop them in the comment section on our YouTube, and we'll get to them as quickly as we can. And if you have a question for a specific person on the podcast today, I will try to get that to the correct human being. Also, follow us on Instagram, @HowAreThe_children, and we can keep this conversation going there, because I think it's really important. And Tiffany, thank you for lifting that up as something we need to continue doing. So thank you all for joining us on the podcast. Pastor Leta, do you have anything you would like to add before
No,
we
just
leave?
a big thank you. And I feel much more informed and able to advocate and add my voice now as well.
So thank you all. Oh, Tiffany, did you have a last closing thought?
No, sorry. Thank you.
That's
I just want to say thank you for making this space and having the conversation. It's been beautiful and really good to share with so many different change makers. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. We will see you next time, listeners. Next week, we will also have our text study if you were looking for that. And we will be continuing other conversations in the future with other folks on how are the children. Everyone take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.